if I ever gonna be a dictator, I'm not gonna kill people, nothing. I just want to have one application for everybody. Really, can we do this? And you are free, you can do whatever, just in this application, just one. I don't want Messenger, I don't want WhatsApp, it's too much. Since I came from Algeria, I used to use one messenger only, it was Facebook. And then I joined one group for like work, I had to download WhatsApp, another group for Telegram. And here I came here, I had to do Instagram.
Slack.
Really.
Okay.
I would be really good, cool dictator, but can you do this for me?
So this is the one thing that you wish for
Not
yourself
wish.
as a dictator.
No, not wish. What do you mean wish? I'm a dictator. I mean like, motherfuckers from now on, one application.
Welcome back to Fractured. Actually, I should say good evening. It's really late today when we're recording. Fractured is our informative podcast about the so-called refugee crisis and migration flows in the world. We have our special focus on Europe, but today is one of our global episodes. Extremely interesting, as I assume it will be. As always, with me, my co-host, Rasheed Ghalli. Welcome, Rasheed.
Thank you so much.
Rasheed, I want to tell you that I got a very interesting comment that our podcast is the most depressing podcast my friend is listening to.
Depressing?
Yes, because we always speak about very, very problematic issues, and we do not have solutions for those issues.
Well, the solution starts with a discussion. So when we discuss stuff, that's also part of the solution.
That's very good.
You see?
That's very good. I have to tell her this.
So they need to watch this episode.
Yes. So we're very hoping that maybe you will at least have some good practices coming from our guests today. And our wonderful guests that we have in our studio today is Sulah Maveye. Okay, Sulah, you have to tell me if I pronounced your last name right.
You're doing great, but it's pronounced as Sulah Mawije.
Mawije, okay. Because there's nothing more frustrating than people pronouncing your last name wrongly. I have it always in one Polish television. Whenever they invite me, they always butcher my last name.
Even Polish?
Sometimes in one show, they said it in 3 different ways.
Okay.
But thank God I got married. Now they can pronounce my husband's last name well.
Do they get it right?
They get it right because it's very easy for Polish people to pronounce this name.
Okay.
So, okay.
Thank you, Herman.
Okay, but going back to our podcast. Sulah is a country director for Safe Place for Kenya. He's an activist for HIV and AIDS people rights. And as he says, he's a human. And our second guest is Masi from Zimbabwe, who is a global director for the Gym Academy for the Safe Place International, which is a leadership academy for people, for the community of Safe Place International. She is a human rights activist and an executive director for Pachelu program, which is LGBTQI plus program in Africa. So welcome very much, Masi, as well.
I'm happy to be here.
Guys, we are meeting with you today to discuss about a very sensitive topic. And as I spoke with people from Safe Place International, they illuminated me with so much knowledge about LGBTQI plus rights. And today we were going to focus about the situation in Africa, where you two are. Masi, you are originally from Zimbabwe. However, you do not live there anymore. You live in South Africa. Sulah is from Uganda. He couldn't live there. He lives in Kenya right now. So I would like to start with actually your personal stories, to ask you about those moments that you decided that you have to leave your countries, that you have to flee, that you cannot as LGBTQ people stay in the country, and tell us a little bit about the situation of LGBTQ people in your country. Masi, shall we start with you?
Thank you so much. And thank you again for this platform. So as you have said, I was born in Jakarta, in Zimbabwe. And I grew up in a very homophobic family. At the age of 8, I knew I was different. And I used to call myself a boy when I was growing up. Whenever we went to the departmental store to look for clothes for me to wear, I'd go straight to the boys' stuff, and I would feel comfortable wearing the the boys' clothes. So it happened that when I came out, I had my uncles, my mom's brothers, extended family, because in Zimbabwe we've got this thing of extended families coming to stay together. They used to rape me. I need to be very vague about it. And they used to abuse me. And it was more like corrective rape of you want to think like you're a boy. It didn't stop for a long time. And at the age of 13, I ran away from home and went and stayed with my then friend. First, I was given shelter with an LGBTIQ organization in Zimbabwe. I wouldn't name their name because they didn't give me the right to do that. And I stayed there until my high school was finished. At that time, my friend then got married before me, and my ticket staying in a house was more like it has expired, because I used to stay on a tab because we used to stay together. I then had to go back home and ask them to take me back home. And the catch for them to take me home, I was very intelligent. I had to go into university. My first year of doing hospitality and tourism is the year that they forced me to get married to my kid's dad. It was very difficult for me. 2005, I recall, was the worst year. I gave birth to my daughter in 2004, still going to university and coming back home. But 2005 was the most horrendous year that I had. And sexually, I wasn't attracted to the men because it was a forced marriage. It was something that was organized by the family. I had to. My kid's dad then had to expose me to the family to say, hey, I think I've stayed with her for the past year, like a full year, without me going to school and coming back, because each and every semester I would be much more comfortable at school, because it took 3-4 months at a semester for me to come back. And he said, I can count how many times I've had sexual intercourse with her. And she has told me that she's not attracted to men. I don't feel like I can be with her anymore. And that's how I got out of that relationship, marriage. Lobola was paid. Lobola is a bride price that people pay in Zimbabwe, and everything was done in the right way. But me being shunned out of that family also gave my family that I come from a bad name. 2007 was the year that I decided I want out. I want out of Zimbabwe. I just want to be able to get to a safe place whereby I can become a mom. I can get money to fend for myself, and be able to get my daughter from Zimbabwe to come to South Africa. I moved out of Zimbabwe without knowing anyone in South Africa. I just knew South Africa with LGBTIQ rights. On paper, we are allowed, we are accepted. It was a roller coaster, if I should say, of not knowing what you're going to eat the next day, what's going to happen to you. I was lucky to get into a hand of a loving woman at that time that was old enough to give me shelter. And I was stuck at the train station And she came along and she's like, what are you doing? Like, I'm waiting for someone to pick up my phone. I just came from Zimbabwe. No, you can come and stay by me. And when that person picks up the phone, then you can go and stay with that person. Up until now, I've never met that person from 2007. And I am not documented here in South Africa. Let's cut the whole story short. After 15 years of me being separated from 2007, last year on the 1st of June was when I was able to hold my baby, who is now 19. She just turned 19 last week. But it was... I still punish myself for leaving my daughter. And I thank God every time when I ask her, did something happen to me? Like, what happened to me? Her answer is, no, nothing happened to me. But I missed 15 years of my daughter's life. And that's how the situation in Zimbabwe is. LGBTIQ people in Zimbabwe are not accepted. They are condemned. They are secluded from the community. And we just don't have a space. Some do live in fear of coming out. That's how you get to be in a forced marriage. And some that are radical are now renting for themselves and doing sex work in Zimbabwe for them to be able to fend for themselves because the families have shunned them. Some like me who wanted to get my education to go maybe further have been deprived of that because of my sexuality. And I can say I've made South Africa my home, but it's really not home. That is another issue for another episode maybe. But my journey to come to South Africa was not what I wanted, but it was a need for me because I needed to be alive, I needed to be safe, and I needed to have a safe space for my daughter. So, yeah.
Masi, thank you very much for sharing with us this very, I have to say, touching story and very brave from your side. Are you now with your daughter permanently, or at least seeing each other frequently?
I can call her. I'm staying with her now, and just come and show your face. That is from. She's not a fan of this. So that's Caitlin. That's my daughter. So I'm permanently staying with her, although the dad is like constantly asking for her back because of documentation here. She's not doing anything and she's just sitting idle at home. And she has made the decision of, I'm now of age, I'm not going to be with my dad anymore. So that is Masi's story.
That's also brave of her.
Yeah, she's now become like wherever I go, like with activism and everything, she's now like my strongest ally and my biggest cheerleader. And that's one thing that I can say the Dream Academy and Safe Place International did for me, and I'm so proud of now being a mom/dad to my daughter, and she can accept me and call me daddy sometimes, or sometimes she can call me mommy. So yeah, that's what I got from that. Thank you.
A brave daughter of a brave mom. Masi, we're going to come back to you very soon. I just wanted to ask almost the same question to Sulah. Sulah, how was your journey? How was this moment that you decide that you want to leave Uganda? I'm assuming the laws in Uganda are very, very harsh on LGBTQ people. So what was your story behind it?
Thank you so much. My name is Sulah Mawije, pronounce he, him, his. I'm a Ugandan queer person that is currently a refugee in Nairobi, Kenya. I mean, as you mentioned, like from Uganda, as we know, currently we do have an anti-homosexuality bill that is inactive, that was enacted recently in May this year. So like coming to Kenya, it's not something that you get to prepare yourself. It's not something that, I do wish, coming here, as my colleague Nyasha was speaking, I was choking on my words because I was like, I could get to be in a moment, getting to remember how it's hard for queer persons to flee and go to other countries and be stateless, and even in those countries they're still facing challenges. So myself, I grew up in a very religious background. It was a very diverse religious background. My mom was a Catholic, my dad was a Muslim. So we used to practice both religions at home. I used to go to the mosque, I used to go to the church. But at an early age, I started, feeling different of how other boys were, like in primary school. And I used to be called names. I used to be called a Ghalli boy. And then at a young age, I used to come back and tell my mom, they're calling me names. Because I'm the only son of my parents. And growing up, I was like a trophy child. In Africa, or I think in families, like a man, boy is always regarded as the heir to the family. So I was always regarded as the heir to my dad, to my daddy's lineage. So I was supposed to, my dad used to worship me. My dad used to love me so much. And so I used to come back home and tell about my mom, how I was bullied at school, how I was called names. My mom used to just tell me, like, that's how you are. There is nothing wrong with you. Just leave them alone. And then I continued like going. I finished my primary, then went to high school. But then before that, so also my dad was a man who used to show love differently. It's someone that used to was an abusive man to my mom, to my many moms that I had, and also to my other siblings and me as well. And this is a way that, in an African setting, like it would be like you're trying to show or punish a kid, but then to a point where a kid gets bruises or gets scars, that is abuse. It's now that I'm starting to learn that was not love. He had a different way of showing love, but I knew he loved me, someone that would show me off in his friends and all that. So when I got to high school, there was a pressure. I was in my adolescent, like there was a pressure to just, be a man, because there was still this bullying. I was doing MDD, music, dance, and drama in school. And most of the boys were like, why are you like a girl? Why are you hanging out with girls? You need to be like the boys. You need to play football. You need to play soccer. And I'm like, I don't love soccer. So like I felt pressured as a boy in high school to just feel, like a man. Because having a religious background, I started asking myself and also praying to God. I just pray I don't be that person, because there were already rumors, I had people who were behaving like women, and they are men. They were satanic, they were demonic. So I every time that I would pray, I would tell God, please don't make me that person. I just don't want to be that person. I would try whatever I can to just be a man, like to just be like the other boys. So I remember like my fellow my fellow classmates were talking about their encounters with sex and girls, and then I was very blank. I didn't have anything to contribute to the conversation. And then I kept on asking one of the boys, like, how do I get to hit on a girl? And because I felt like the pressure to just feel in be included in that circle as a boy. And I remember the boy explaining to me, this is how you hit on a girl and everything. But in my head I was like, I was attracted to boys, because I was staying I was staying at school, like it was like a dormitory. So I didn't go back to school. I used to be staying at school. They had like hostels. And then so time moved on, and then I finished my high school, and then my parents passed on. Then I had to be moved to my uncle, who was a very staunch Muslim man. He was very staunch. and he's someone who was a imam in the area where he was staying, or where we were staying. And so I was meant to learn Islam, because when I was staying at my parents' place, religion is something that we would practice. We would practice both religions, but then we were not staunch about them. Like, it was not something that was forced on my siblings and I. So but when I went to my uncle, like I was told, you need to learn. And then I remember that was the time that I was in my high school S4 break. And then I remember, so one of my cousin happened to go to get through my phone and checked my conversation with some person, and then decided to tell the mom that Sulah is chatting with this boy, and these are the messages. And that's how I got in trouble. So my uncle was like, we cannot house you anymore. We cannot you cannot be the person that the community is talking about. You cannot get to tarnish the reputation of this family, and also you're a disgrace to your dad. So my uncle chased me out of the house. I went to Kampala, because by then we were staying in a very remote in the village. So I had to move to Kampala, stay with my friends. And then when I moved to Kampala, the situation was very bad. And then in 2016, in March, I moved to Nairobi. So leaving home, thinking that I'm going to have a better life in Kenya, but it wasn't La La Land, because I got to sleep outside the UN for 2 weeks. Just outside of, I had nowhere to sleep. I had no food, and they would take us inside the UN premises, and they would ask us, you have to go to the camp. And then so there are the refugee camps, which are in Kakuma, which have hostile environment. And also the people who are in Kakuma, they are very hostile, because they have different refugees from different nationalities and different beliefs and backgrounds. And these are people that are being put together with queer refugees. So I told them I can't go to the camp because of what is already happening in the camp. So I had to stay there for 2 weeks. Then later I was registered. And then so I started integrating into the community, but it was hard, leaving home and knowing where to place your foot. But being here, like, you're a foreigner, you don't know where to start from. So it was a very hard experience. And then in 2019, I was able to join a community-based organization which called the Nature Network, that helped me to take me in. And they were able to offer me they have a safe space, and also they use a family-based therapy to get to redefine what family means to us. Because coming from a background where my own relatives disowned me and told me I'm not part of their family, and having a place which is a safe space and trying to redefine what family means to us amongst ourselves. We do have figures, that a mother figure, a father figure, and also sisters as well. So as time went on, by then the UN was supporting us with financial assistance. And then during I think that was during the Trump administration, so a lot of funds was cut. So many of us were cut from that assistance. So I had to do whatever I can so that I can be able to sustain in the urban setting, which is Nairobi. So I engaged in sex work just to be able to survive in Nairobi, just to be able to pay bills, because it was very hard. No one was going to come to your rescue until yourself you're going to be able to make a living and be able to sustain yourself. And so for the time I've been here, I've been harassed by the police. I've been arrested, and I've been in quite difficult situations, as the shelter where I stayed has been raided several times. And this is something that I don't wish for anyone. to ever happen, because being a refugee is a very shitty situation, because you don't have a safeguard. You don't have anyone that you know. Even just waking up every day, you have to be like, wow, like I need to go in this world, and I need to present myself, deem myself the way that I see myself, because you're a foreigner, you're stateless, and you just have to exist. Even, you know, when you try to build rapport with people that you live around, the local host community, it's still very hard, because these two identities, being a refugee and also being queer, it's going to be very hard. There is going to be limitation of what you can get. I've been here for, I think I'm terrible with math, but I've been here since 2016 to 2023, I think that would come to 7 or 8, if I'm good with my math. And, I'm mandated, I have a refugee status in the country, but then even with this refugee status, there's so many limitations that I cannot get. When it comes to health services, when it comes to getting job opportunities, and also just, even opening bank accounts, and also enjoying the privileges that, other citizens, because our refugee status is also equivalent to someone with a national ID who is a citizen of Kenya. But this is something that is on paper. But then I don't know how the system works, but yeah, it's just very hard. Even with when Masi was saying he's not documented, I'm documented in Kenya where I am, but still I'm limited to what I can access every day. And I think it was in 2021 I joined Safe Place. I joined as a student, and later I was employed as their country director in Kenya for the program of the Dream Academy. And this has helped me, to be able to give access to my community, to give access to so many other queer persons that don't have platforms, for their voices to be heard, and to also be able to have a safe space, which can be accessed virtually. And also connect with other, stories of queer persons that are around the globe that are, facing, the same challenges. It could be displacement, it could be being disowned in your family, so that we can come together and also use talents that we do have, and be able to be self-reliant. Yes.
Sulah, I think this is a wonderful moment to actually advertise a little bit Safe Place International, which are our very dear friends. So we're going to take a short break so all our listeners can hear from Rachel, actually, who's the CEO right now of Safe International and Safe Place International. And for those who are watching us on YouTube or on Spotify, they will be able also to see some pictures from your programs. So Safe Place International, and we're back after the break.
The LGBTQI+ community fights for space in this world. Space to live safely, to love freely, to be authentically. But for all the progress we've made, we're moving backwards. Today, we see radical legislation, homophobia, and an emboldened culture of bias in countries around the world. For queer persons, the simple act of living puts them at risk. There is a global community of displaced, marginalized people whose lives must be protected, their humanity affirmed, not only because it's just, but because the world is better for it. Our institutions and communities are calling out for their perspectives and visions for change. At Safe Place International, we believe that centering and amplifying the voices of marginalized communities is necessary to build a world that's safer, more inclusive, and filled with joy. To do so, we cultivate ecosystems of safety, healing, and collective growth with and for an intersectional community of LGBTQI+ displaced persons to affirm the leaders that only they can be. Wherever they are in the world, wherever they are in their journey, the path forward looks different for everyone. So we meet people on their terms, from standing up community centers in cities to reaching remote areas through technology, from welcoming someone who was recently displaced to supporting them as their goals change. At every step, we work together with kindness and generosity to ensure that everyone in our community feels connected, seen, and understood. The core of our work centers on equipping our community members to find their purpose and thrive in their new environments. But we know that can't happen without a foundation of safety and stability. We work side by side with global and local partners to protect people with access to safe housing, food, supplies, and critical information. When there's a need, we rise to meet it, every time. From there, we can look to the future. The Dream Academy, our 10-week intensive virtual course, focuses on leadership development, socio-emotional learning, and job skills training. Led by members of the LGBTQI+ refugee community and available in 2 languages, the Dream Academy connects participants to purpose, power, and the new possibilities they need to heal from individual and collective traumas. And those experiences at the Dream Academy make a lifetime of difference. Grounded in their purpose, our community members embark on their own paths. They find transformative opportunities and assume roles of power and influence in their institutions and communities, uplifting the people and spaces around them. Whatever path they take or make, they pave the way to acceptance and celebration for the generations that follow. The world is made better by their voices, their dreams, and their joy. And we've only just begun.
Okay, welcome back everyone to the second part of this episode. I have a question for Sulah. Can you hear me, Sulah? Cool. But before that, I want to shock Sonia a little bit. So I did some digging about the origins of the new anti-LGBTQ plus law in Uganda. Did you know that in 2009, it was nicknamed Kill the Gays law? They were going to do it in 2009, and then they stopped it. So did you see? Kill the gays. Can you imagine in the parliament, people like, we have this law, it's called Kill the Gays.
I don't know what to say to that.
Yeah. Seriously. So my question is to Sulah is, how did this law, how did the society in Uganda receive this law? Did they support it? If not, I know that people supported and people not, but how did like the general society receive this law?
Thank you so much. How did the society receive the anti-homosexuality bill? So this in 2023, it's not the first time like this bill was signed. So we go back like in 2009 when this bill was called Kill the Bill. And then so people, the parliament and also the president felt like this was not something that he would second. So they took back the bill, and then it was introduced. I think, if I'm certain, it was around 2014. And then this bill, by that time, it didn't have quorum. So people went and queer activists went in court and petitioned about this bill, how inhuman it was, and also getting to see how this bill was passed because it lacked quorum. There were less MPs in parliament that voted for this law to be tabled and then be sent to the president to sign upon it. So the law was valid, was not null and void. Actually, recently in 2023, so we started having like conversation in Uganda where people were talking about this bill. So, but then how they brought it was a very smart way, because you know how they get to drive a narrative that queer persons are pedophiles, queer persons are rapists, queer persons are a threat to the to the family setting, the society, heterosexual, families. So they started, projecting different, images. They started doing it with different social media campaigns, and these were all portraying, queer persons that were rapists, queer persons were pedophiles, queer. So like this kind of narrative kind of fired up the community, to be like, this is not something I believe in. This is not something the religion speaks about. So in that, even before the law went up to the parliament to be tabled and then sent to the president, Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, there was already bias, and there was a lot of backlash within the community, within the citizens of Kenya, because they had driven this narrative of the stereotyping around queer persons, that queer persons are evil, queer persons are rapists, and queer persons are pedophiles. And this is not who I am. I mean, I'm not that person. I also condemn, people who are pedophiles. I condemn people who are child molesters. That is not who I speak as a person. That is not how I see my community. But then the narrative was driven, and then from there we had churches that were in part of that, and so it was like I don't know, like it was a smart way how they drove the narrative, and before even it got to the parliament, already the citizen were like, yes, this is something that we're going to go behind. We're going to go behind, even if it's going to kill someone else. But this is not some. This is something that is un-Ugandan. This is not something that we believe in as Ugandan. So before even it got to the president signing it recently in May, there was already this narrative and also the bias and a lot of fire that was built and anger that was built within the Ugandan citizen.
Wow.
Sulah, you mentioned the involvement of the church actually in passing the law and joining this narrative. I mean, I guess this is something that is probably present in several African countries. I am actually curious from both of you, from you and from Masi, how do you see the church's engagement in the pushing even further the anti-gay laws and discrimination of LGBTQI people in Africa in general?
Thank you so much. Like religion and also culture, those are the main factors that are used in East Africa, like in East Africa and also in Africa as well, like as factors to get to say that this is something that is an-African. But when we go down before colonization, like where I come from the Buganda kingdom. We have one of the king who is I'm forgetting his name, but this king was practiced homosexuality, right? And this is something that the Bagandas or people, or like the tribe that I'm from, they well aware of this habit that was practiced by their king. But this is not something some people get to say, and they always get to say this was a Western behavior. But then even before colonization happened in Uganda, there was still we practiced homosexuality even within the communities, like because Buganda kingdom is one of the biggest kingdoms like in East Africa. Like it's very known. It's still even being respected even until to now. And this is something that has some experiences or has some attachment to homosexuality, but this is not something that people get to say. So, but when people, I'm usually very surprised or shocked even when people say like this is not Uganda, this is not what we believe, this is an African, but this is something that was practiced. But just because we didn't have the right vocabulary to get to say, this is homosexuality, and then the fact that even with the colonial laws, like it's something that we didn't know about, but then because of the division that colonization brought in our countries, it kind of fueled up more of how our own citizen get to see queer persons in their countries. So it's something that came back way back. It's not something people get to say like this is un-African and this is unreligious. Because most of the time when we hear before even the tabling of the bill in Uganda, they also get to consult the clergies, those are the religious leaders, to get to know about their opinion about the laws. So they are being consulted even before it's being taken to the parliament and then to the president himself. So those are big factors or big bodies that get to affect how queer persons rights are being affected in Uganda. And I think I'll switch to my friend Masi.
Thank you so much, Sulah. So in Zimbabwe, we are a Christian nation, whereby, of course, traditional religion and the culture and everything also works negatively as an impact in the LGBTIQ spaces. We have switched from LGBTIQ. I don't think there's any organization in Zimbabwe besides the oldest organization, that is GALS, that says gays and lesbians. But the other organizations that are coming out that are LGBTIQ, they use the key population. That's the word that they use every time. exorcism has been seen as something that has been very much happening to our LGBTIQ siblings back home in Zimbabwe, whereby if you are a lesbian, a gay, they'll take you to the churches, apostolic faith missions, and they get you to try and be exorcised from being LGBTIQ. There's also traditional leaders that are there in Zimbabwe, sangomas that are traditional healers. They tell you, oh, you are two-spirited, you have an ancestor that is male that is on you, and you are female. So those are the kind of like dynamics that are pulling you to be who you are, like a lesbian, but really you're not supposed to be a lesbian. We have the president of Zimbabwe. There is Kenan Sondido Banana. He was named Sondido because he was gay. He was the first prime minister of Zimbabwe after the colonization, of course, when we had said we got independent. He got also shunned from the community. He got asked for being gay. And his last time on earth, he had to spend it in England, if I'm not mistaken, because he was not wanted and he had been stripped of his dignity in Zimbabwe. The late President Robert Mugabe has made it clear that I would love to see two gay men have a baby. If not, then I will never give any rights to the LGBTIQ community. As we speak right now, our then president that we have right now, has made it also publicly known when he was at the UN conferences, when he's in any spaces and he's asked about the LGBTIQ community, and he says, I stand with my religion and my culture. Same applies to the opposition party. President has also made it so clear to say, hey, I will not accept it. So with the Zimbabwean part talking about, as I am Zimbabwean, LGBTIQ is not accepted, is not wanted, and there is now a minimum of 2 years that someone can get arrested, not for being caught in the act of doing anything, but for my dressing as I am comfortable dressing as a man. They arrest you and say you are affiliated. So if they see me wearing some boxers, a brief, I get arrested for 2 years for that. So religion, pastors, they've shunned all of our LGBTIQ community members in praise and worship that have got their own talents and that want to praise God. Some of them that are clergy pastors that are coming now here to South Africa and saying we want to be having a church that is inclusive of everyone else, including the LGBTIQ.
Masi, I when you mentioned the exorcisms, I mean, in moments like this, I'm always amazed how the Catholic world is normally so happy to follow Pope's directives, but when it comes to gay people, they oppose him completely, as if suddenly he makes mistakes in his judgment, right? So when he embraces gay people, the church in Zimbabwe provides exorcisms on gay people. Church in my Poland, they don't do that, but they are very happy to take you to those classes and explain you how the fact that you consider yourself a lesbian is a disease and they can cure you, right? It's not a general situation, but it happens in many churches still in a European Union country. So it always amazes me that something like this is still happening right now, and that we're taking it so, randomly. Whatever works with our beliefs, yes, then once the Pope is the highest authority in the world, and then the moment later, well, like, he makes mistakes, he's just a human being, he makes mistakes.
But for me, it's always... Sorry,
I'm very happy that you brought up the Catholic. I was born, raised Catholic, and I never found my seat in the church at any given time. Because as a young kid, instead of going to church wearing a dress, I used to go wearing my pants and everything. And I should tell you, here in South Africa, no Catholic priest can be able to I don't know what the English word is. Sulah, maybe you can help me. If I want to get married in the Catholic Church, I'm not going to get a Catholic priest to do that for me because the Vatican has not approved that. And when we spoke about the other time, hey, we saw the Pope wearing a rainbow flag on him. What about that? How is it now bringing upon everything? Then it's there in Europe where he's doing that, but here in Africa, we do not allow anything of that sort to happen. And for you to tell you need to sit at the back of the church, not in front, not take any part in any activities of church because of who you are. You are now misleading the church and the whole congregation with you being LGBTIQ.
For me, always the question is it the religion or the interpretation of the religion? Because, for example, in Islam, I grew up as a Muslim. I'm not anymore, but it's written there that if you do these acts, you are forbidden from Islam. You should get killed. I don't know about Christianity. Is it written there, or just because you are saying the Pope is okay, and then these people are saying?
Now we're really going into a very dangerous territory, because what is religion? What is the interpretation of religion, right?
For me, it's like what's written there. Okay, at least they can say it's written.
Even what was written was selected at certain point of history. That now we're gonna in Christianity we're gonna take those 4 books, and they will be the main one, the ones we will obey, right? Among many others. So they chose the ones that were the dominant or the ones that got most votes at the time, I would say, right? From the apostles and the Christian community. So very dangerous territory to go there, actually.
Yeah, and I think maybe if we can add on to that is when the scriptures are selected to speak about thieves, about a lot of things that are people that are doing, the foods that we used to not be allowed to eat in the Bible. Let's take Leviticus, and let's now talk about the New Testament, whereby Jesus is turning water into wine. There is a contradiction in everything in the Bible, but they choose the doctrines and the script that they want to move their motive or the emotion that they want to use at that time.
You want to go?
So, guys, I would like to ask both of you, how much better is the situation for LGBTQI plus people in the countries you escaped to? So in South Africa and in Kenya. We heard a little bit about how difficult it was for both of you at the beginning of coming to those countries. Can you tell us a little bit broader, what is the situation for LGBTQI people in your new home countries?
As I have explained to you that from 2007 up to date, I'm not properly documented. South Africa, on paper, of course, it says, hey, we accept every LGBTIQ person that comes through. But the Home Affairs, the Department of Home Affairs, does not give any documentation unless you prove to be LGBTIQ. You have to prove to be lesbian, or you have to prove that you're gay. And the moment I say I've got a kid, I'm already out of being lesbian because you've got a daughter. And then if you are not gay, if you are not a drag person that then cross dresses, then you're not gay enough for them to give you documentation. As what Sulah has spoken about with the access to health, we have difficulties whereby we've got a lot of our community members that default from their medication, those that are HIV positive, because at times they do not feel like going to that same hospital or clinic again because they've been discriminated. We've got trans men and trans women that are going to the public hospitals, trying to get their hormones, and it's questions after questions. It's them being asked to strip naked. It's them, a lot of things that are happening in these hospitals that they now stay or shun away and look for organizations that can be able to give them medication. Same applies to jobs. When you're not documented, you cannot get a job. When you're not documented, you cannot get education, or even further your education to just get a general GED. So you find yourself being exploited by maybe different restaurants that you're working in and offering you lesser money for your services. So in terms of South Africa, a lot of homophobia that is now mixed with xenophobia, that we don't want Zimbabweans. That is the thing that is going on right now. We do not want any Zimbabweans in South Africa, irregardless of if you're LGBTIQ, if you're just a economic migrant or refugee. We just don't want you here. So now it's left us coming to a safe haven, to a greener pasture, to say we can get protection, we can be ourselves, and we can live our lives to the fully. To when this time comes that we have been given, where am I going to go to? So we are now displaced in a country that we felt like we are going to be harnessed and we are going to be safeguarded by it.
Mm-hmm. Sulah, how about you and the situation in Kenya right now?
My situation is I would want to sit here and be like, amongst the thousands of refugees, queer refugees who are here. I'm lucky or I'm privileged, but then if all of us are not safe, there is no plight, or there is no pride of me saying like, I'm privileged or I have access to so many things in terms of like I'm now working with Safe Place and other organizations. So it's very hard for queer refugees to exist in the country where even the system that are supposed to be protecting you, like so we do have a refugee act that is supposed to help refugees integrate and be like any other to be like any other citizen in the country, access the same services, health services, and also job opportunity. But this is something that is on paper, but when it comes to the reality, this is not something that is happening, because we had cases of LGBT persons, people that have been my friends that have died, just not able to access health services, people who have committed suicide outside the UNHCR. And this is someone that just wanted to have a meal and didn't have food in the house and came to cry, came to just show how ask for food from the UN, and this person lost lives. You have instances of people, queer refugees who have been burnt in Kakuma camp, people who have been bruised, kids who have been killed in the refugee camps. So it's very hard. I usually say, myself, life here, it has not been easy for me, even until now, because waking up every day, going into the world, and you've been here the longest. You have a refugee status that is supposed to allow you have access to so many things, but then every day you have to wake up and be like, oh God, I just don't want to die in this struggle, because there is a lot of challenges around like from just accessing health services, and also accessing like public services, just someone registering a bank account. And then with these statuses, when you're documented, there is a guarantee that you're supposed to get or mandated to get them, but that's not what is actually happening. People's houses have been raided, trans people have been stripped when they're being arrested by the police. And with the new influx that is coming from Uganda due to the anti-LGBT homosexuality bill that passed in May, the government is not registering queer persons. It's frustrating them. So if someone gets to go there, they get to frustrate you. But then if another refugee or an asylum seeker from still the same country, but it says is a political asylee, they're going to be able to speed their process. And I'm like, what is happening? Because I work there as a part-time interpreter, and you hear cases of your fellow colleagues, they are denied to be registered and just having documentation. And that is something we usually like we face, because if you don't have documentation, there are so many things that are also going to be limited from just being, because you're going to be there is a habit of the police usually raiding us and also asking us, even communities where we get to stay, why are you running from Uganda? There is no war in Uganda. What are you doing here? Unless you're the queer person that brought your vice, you brought your homosexuality to our country. And this very year, the start of this very year, there was a case of an LGBT activist, a Kenyan queer activist that was killed. And then there were around conversations around the public, and there was a lot of discrimination. Like the discrimination was caused because this dying of this activist caused a lot of attention. It was published in every news outlet. So this increased a lot of homophobia and transphobia in the countries. And just imagine, this is not just for the queer Kenyans, but also to the refugees who don't have even a safety net where to run to, who are, stateless. So, and then recently there were a lot of challenges, a lot of, there was a lot of, there was a Supreme Court ruling that gave queer organization a right to association. This also came with it was good for the community, but then it brought a lot of backlashes because the people, the way that people, the community interpreted it, they felt like they were legalizing same-sex in Kenya. And currently there's a lot of demonstration, anti-LGBT demonstrations that are led by religious leaders, that is from Christianity and also from Islam, that are saying persons who are queer, they don't belong in Kenya. Kenya is a Christian country, is a very religious country, and we will never let this vice happen in our country. And then just imagine that is the trauma that comes with hearing someone marching when you're in your house, and then telling you that they're going to ban you, they're going to kill you. And then this is someone who is a refugee, but just take it to someone who is a queer Kenyan, who is a national. So there is a lot of on the level that you're going to be facing trauma, and also the fear that you're going to have to just exist, because we have trans persons who are still even have their dead names on the UN document. Someone wants to be referred as Doreen, but it still has Sulah on their documents. So it's just very hard. The government is not is not giving access. Like there is a lot of even discrimination within the entity that's supposed to work with refugees. So there is nothing that is happening. I would say out of 1 million refugees, I'm just happy to even have this opportunity to be on this platform. But there are other folks of mine that don't even have this kind of access, this kind of a privilege to just be able to have a space to be able to or have their stories be told, have spaces to just have access to people, get to know what is actually happening to queer refugees in Kenya.
Sulah, from everything you're saying and from Masi's saying, there's this one actually conclusion coming that you guys are basically being in a doubly hard condition situation, almost like doubly stigmatized. Once for being gay people, and the second is for being refugees. And it's basically, I'm sorry for saying this, but it sucks to be either or, seriously. And you combine those two very difficult things. So I see that it's not only all the struggles that refugees have in their old countries and their new countries, but also there's this extra level for you just because you're homosexual. And this is an extremely, extremely difficult situation. So I'm wondering if you mentioned that there are all of those anti-LGBTQ protests. Do you guys, except for, of course, Safe Place International, are you getting any support from any other movements in your new home countries?
Also, what we have done is Safe Place International and the Dream Academy is, like we talked about, being inclusive of the community. So we've got what we call a strategy. I think it was a very good strategy and something that is good that we do as Safe Place International of service projects that we do. So with these service projects that we do, we actually get our LGBTIQ community members / graduates to get into different communities of where they stay. The way we're getting into the communities is we are identifying a lack of resource in that community. And how we do that, like we've got soup kitchens. Soup kitchens are like small kitchens in the doubly marginalized communities that cook food for the less privileged, maybe 2 or 3 times a week. And we are going in a Safe Place International and saying we are LGBTIQ, we've got refugees and we've got migrants that are here, but we are here to lend a hand and to help feed the people of your community. So we have seen that it's now creating a good relationship with whoever our community member who goes wearing a yellow jacket, or not even a yellow jacket as per se, but they've seen us, they've seen our faces, to get that protection from homophobia and xenophobia from the local communities that are there. That is what the first strategy that we have done. We've also gone and introduced ourselves into different organizations that are South African-led organizations, and we've said, hey, we are here. We've got our community members that are here. They're LGBTIQ. They need one resource, the other resource from different organizations. And we have now seen that now we are claiming spaces in these different organizations, whereby we are now being welcomed in the organizations. And that's how we are now building a rapport or building relationships with the local communities, organizations, for them to also be able to be safe spaces also for our community members. Over to you, Sulah.
And to supplement on also in Kenya, so as the queer refugee community, we've been able to build, to organize ourselves into, organization. We've been able to build different community-based organization that get to address different needs, depending to different communities that is within the LGBTQ umbrella. So where I do also volunteer for Nature Network, which is a community-based organization, which offers a safe space for queer refugees and also economic empowerment and also advocacy in the country. And also, as we are here, we're also tapping into the local host queer Kenyan organizations that have really been generous enough to show us the way of how do we get to advocate for our rights, and also get to act as fiscal host when we get to ask for different funding to help us have a better quality living in Kenya. So we've been able, there is also safe space as well. So we've been also able to to tap into the already existing Kenya queer movement that is in the country, that has really been able to help us shape our CBOs, because most of the people that are running these CBOs, community-based organization, are people who learn from job, right? It's someone that is very passionate about what is happening in the what is happening to him and his folks, and then they get to you get to learn from the job. You don't have any experience of running a community or any organization, but then because you're very passionate and you want to offer a safe space for your colleagues, so you're going to be pushed and work hard and show up so that you can be able to have help someone else who is just arriving in the country, don't have to sleep outside, have a safe space for this person. But even with that organization, these community-based organizations are underfunded and not supported in any way. So most of the time we are left with baggage that these entities that are supposed to support us end up they end up not doing their right mandates, and end up leaving these roles to the community-based organization. Yeah,
this is the first time actually we're covering this topic on the podcast. And also to encourage everybody, we're gonna have a second episode, a follow-up on that, with people who are here in Greece, where we are right now. So we're gonna focus a little bit on the European protection system. But yes, this is the first time, and I was a little bit stressed about this because to be precise, I feel like our knowledge, even we have gay friends, and it's a very different thing to have a gay friend in Europe and a gay friend who is also a refugee. It's absolutely not the same. The struggle is completely different. And not to take away it from our European or American friends, it's very hard to compare their fight for recognition, for their rights, with the things that you guys are facing right now in Africa, being refugees there. And this actually leads me to my next question. Something actually that you, Sulah, pointed out before. You mentioned that the relocation system and the resettlement mechanism, all those pathways to safety actually failed LGBTQI community. Would you mind telling us more about that? Masi, do you want to add something?
Our situation is kind of like different from Sulah's situation. The reason is because, as I've said on paper, South Africa is deemed to be a safe haven for the refugees and migrants. So the moment that I came to South Africa, I'm already said to be safe, right? As per se, that I'm good, nothing is going to happen to me because of my sexuality. But as our life goes on every day, like what we spoke about, jobs, access to health, access to education, is limited because you're not documented. And then when it comes to relocation, there's not really anything of relocation when you are in South Africa. They don't think of relocating you. They don't think of the Department of Home Affairs or the government of South Africa is not providing enough for the refugees and the migrants that are LGBTIQ or any other refugee or migrant. They just say South Africa is safe and everything is good. So I think with our side, on my side, I can tell you, like 2 weeks back, I tried to get I got a conference that I was supposed to attend, and I was supposed to attend the conference in the United States. Of course, I can't go back home because I don't have a home. This has been my home for the past 15 years, 16 years this year. I went to the consulate of the United States. I couldn't get a visa. The reason why, there is no ties to me in South Africa. I don't have anything that could maybe make them believe that I would come back to the country. So that is what everyone else is facing when it comes to you staying in South Africa and it being deemed as a safe place or a safe haven for refugees and migrants.
Masi, I'm sorry. You're undocumented in South Africa for 15 years. How is it possible to be undocumented for 15 years?
It is very, very, very possible when it comes to the South Africa laws and I think the bylaws, if I can say. I've had people that have come to South Africa way before me, and they're still not documented. They have never been documented. Last week, my uncle passed away. He was about 10 years in South Africa, not documented. And for the people to get a repatriation for him, they had to go to the South African government and to the Zimbabwean government and say, hey, we need to repatriate this person. They died in South Africa, but they were not documented. So that is how it is. As long as you can find either sex work, grinder, or you can just be a maid in a house and not get that much money that you want, you can get money from hand to mouth, and you can just get your life going. That is how we have been living, and that's how we live. And with my, of course, NPO Pachedu, we have said to each other, we are refugees, we're migrants that are LGBTIQ, that are staying in South Africa. How about we don't look so much into organizational structures and who is going to help us? Why don't we now stick together as a family and help each other within ourselves? So Pachedu means by ourselves, for ourselves. We have had people coming in, I'll give you this much amount, and then they vanish. And that's how we are now creating a safe, maybe semi-sustainable situation for ourselves. Because if I have a €5, a €5, and Sulah has a €5, and same applies to you, we can buy electricity for Sulah, we can buy water for Sulah, we can buy food for ourselves. So that's how we've been able to survive and sustain ourselves in this country for this long.
Okay. I have something to add. It's not a question. Masi, do you know this organization called Gays and Lesbians of Zimbabwe?
that is, I didn't want to mention it. When I ran away, when I was still a kid, that was my first safe haven in Zimbabwe. But because of the lot of raids that they used to have at that time, of now I haven't heard of a lot of raids that they have, but they were kind of like tuned down. Is it the right word? Tuned down on. We have never had a pride. Let me just put it as this. They've existed for more than 20 odd years. I remember when I was 13, 14, I went there. So I'm now turning 40 next year. So they have been there for the longest, but they've been tuned down a bit because of the raids that we used to have. We used to have police brutality. When anyone saw you at the girls' offices, the police would hit you, the soldiers would be sent on to you. But for now, I haven't heard that much of the police brutality, the government brutality on them. So I do know about them very much.
Okay, thank you.
I was once a member for girls as well.
Okay. That's it for me. Okay.
Masi, Sulah, we would very much like to thank you for joining us for this episode, for first of all, sharing your stories. This is extremely brave of you to tell your stories up front and advocate so bravely for human rights, for LGBTQI plus rights. We are amazed by what you're doing. We would like to encourage everybody who's interested in supporting LGBTQI plus rights for refugees specifically to check Safe Place International. We're gonna add the link to also support Masi's Pachelu organization. We're also gonna attach a link to your organization in our show notes. Please join us for our next episode when we will continue this topic with our guests who are currently in Greece. And we will actually go a little bit more specifically towards transgender people. Thank you very much, and we're going to see you in 2 weeks.
All right. I would like to thank our incredible production team.
Yeah, our production
so
team
much.
is just amazing. Do you have any wishes more than just one
wish.
up? This is it. Like
Really,
your whole
just this.
dictatorship will be.
Yeah.
That's not a real dictatorship, let's be honest. If everything else is free, and that's just like a monopoly on the market.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, that's gonna be my success, because do you know what the trick that the devil did to everyone?
What?
You know that quote?
No.
I forgot it. Wait, what's
super
that quote?
intrigued.
What's that quote about the devil? They convinced them that there is no hell or something like this. I'm gonna find it.
Yes,
What's
that
that?
makes sense.
You
Right?
see?
The devil, the biggest trick the devil created was to convince you that he does not exist.
He does not exist, you see. So I convince you that that's the only thing I'm controlling. But wait and see.
Oh.